Intellectual stew with James Kirkland.
Powerful and provocative, prophetic and practical,
Intellectual stew.
informative and inspirational. How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do.
Intellectual stew.
Come on, let's talk about it with me, the mind massager.
Intellectual stew with
Let's go. What's up? Let's go. What's up, Kennedy?
Hello.
Hey, Gerald. How you doing, sir?
What's going on, my brother?
All right. Welcome to the Intellectual Stew with James Kirkland. Y'all check out my new tagline. My new tagline is, it's the Intellectual Stew where we aren't sipping tea, but we're serving stew. Yeah, somebody say amen.
Amen.
All right. We want to give you something with some substance that's going to stick to your bones. I'm talking about some of that good beans and gravy that grandmama used to give you. I ain't talking about no good old TV dinner that you'll be hungry again after you burp, all right? But once again, first of all, welcome. Want to thank Kennedy and Disco for being with me again. Want to thank everyone that has been giving me feedback. I promise you I am listening, and I'm going to try to implement some of those things into what we are trying to do, right? I'm gonna tell you the most encouraging thing last week is I was having a conversation, because last week we talked about, what we talked about?
Communication.
Yeah, the importance of clear communication. And we were talking about different types of listeners. And Kennedy, I was talking to one young lady, and we were carrying on this conversation. And then somewhere in the middle of the conversation, she said, hold on. She came back and she restated her notes. And I said, what, did you take notes? She said, yeah, I took notes. Y'all were giving some good stuff. I didn't bargain for that. I wasn't expecting people to, take notes and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people, even my little brother was saying, James, we need to learn. That's how he talks. So sometimes I use his little voice. But he said, James, we need to learn how to have better communication. So kudos to Kennedy. And we did that last week. But tonight we are going to be having a little bit of a different conversation. We're supposed to have a guest at 9:35 with Nicole. If she's able to come in, we're going to have her at 9:35, and then we're going to listen to our guests. But tonight we'll be having the first discussion of a few with the subject that is entitled Tough Love. I think this is a very important subject because tough love, I think so many people, especially from my generation, I'm 48 years old. I was born in 1972. I think everybody in our generation tried to make us participate in tough love. So I want to make sure that we need to know if tough love really works, if tough love really works. So we're going to have Nicole, like I said, call in just a moment. You can take that down for a second. She just texted me. She's going to be calling in Nicole Jones. She's a life coach. She's an author, and she's actually like my life coach. I'm working on some things with her. She helps me talk through a few things. So I was going to give her a segment in the show, and the segment is going to be called Nicole's Nuggets. So like I said, she's going to be calling in just a moment with a Zoom call. But I am super, super, super excited to do Tough Love. Nicole, are you there? Can we hear you? I see you, but I don't hear you. Can you hear me, Nicole?
Tell us you got this on.
All right, Nicole, make sure you're unmuted on your end, Nicole. We can't hear you. All right. Are you unmuted? It is 100% on you. It's on you, Nicole. Are you unmuted? Let me text. Make sure you're unmuted. If not, but like I said, we'll be talking. Kennedy, you got your slide open. Tell them a little bit about Gerald while we're trying to get her taken care of.
Well, we have my Uncle Gerald, but Mr. Gerald Jennings, who is a husband, a father, a grandfather, a minister, an entrepreneur, a mentor. and a CEO of a nonprofit. And we have him here because he is a parent.
And that's all right. So we're gonna talk about his parenting style. Nicole, are you there? Are you there?
That's on her.
We can try. If it don't work, we don't work. She's reconnecting right now. It looks like it's trying to reconnect according to the top of that. But if it doesn't work, then we'll have to try it again.
Put it on my side.
All right, so we're hooked up on our side. That's what we try to. All right, so the question tonight is, what is tough love?
Where she going?
Can you hear you now? Can you talk? Can we hear you?
She can't. I got to put my camera on to see me.
Oh, she can't see me.
She watching YouTube. She can.
All right, flip it on you and see if you can see. If she can't do it, we can't get her on. We're gonna have to move on. Hold on, folks. We're gonna talk about. Let me give you a definition of tough love. Tough love is an expression used when someone treats another person harshly or sternly with the intent to help them in the long run. Let me say that again. Tough love is an expression when someone treats another person, here's the key part of that, they treat them harshly or sternly with the intent
Can you hear me?
to help them in the long run.
Can you hear me?
All right. So relationships that tough love can be used in. Number one is the one we're going to be talking about tonight. That's the parental. Number two is the spousal. Number three is a mentor slash mentee. Number four is a coach
Can you hear me?
player relationship. Number five is a judicial relationship. When someone gets in trouble with the law, the judge might use tough love on that individual. A drug sponsor slash addict, that's another type of relationship. And I'm sure there are a whole bunch of others as well. Can y'all think of any other type of relationship? I'm going to get you talking in just 1 second. Any other type of relationships you can think of that I might have left out?
No.
All right. So those are the ones. But the one that Kennedy, did we get, I hear some music now. Is that her?
Yes, we good on that.
Okay. And the one that we're going to be talking, Kennedy and I are going to be discussing along with Gerald. Kennedy and I are going to be discussing tonight with our guest will be the parental. And we'll open up the phone lines in a minute. I really wanted to get Nicole in for Nicole's nuggets, but if it's not working, then we'll have to try to troubleshoot.
She said she gonna come back.
Okay, get it later. All right. So Kennedy, tell me what tough love is and what tough love is not.
I think that it's important to understand this because I think there's some things people do that they try to pass it off as tough love, and maybe it doesn't work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So what tough love isn't, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Okay.
You can't do the same thing to everyone. Just like we were talking about last week with communication, you can't talk to people the same way as you talk to other people based on the situation and based on their personalities. It's also not done out of punishment or revenge. So when I was reading this, I felt like anger and love can't always sit in the same place. That's what came to my mind when I
Say it
read
again.
that. Anger and love can't always sit in the same place. But do y'all think that anger and love can be perceived at the same time? Because that's something that came to mind. Can somebody see in your actions, can they see anger and love at the same time?
Yes.
I think
You think so?
Yeah. Well, because I think. Go ahead.
depending upon the content of what's transpiring, I think if a person know that you love them, you can be angry with them and love them at the same time. So I think yes, it can be touch and go, but definitely a person that you love, you will get angry with them.
One thing you don't do with the whole anger piece though is, and I agree with you, Gerald. But the problem comes when anger produces abuse.
Yeah.
If I can be, because typically if you're disciplining a child, it hurts the parent as much as it hurts the child. If you're disciplining the child. Now, and we'll get into this conversation a little bit deeper in a minute. Go give me some more of that, and we'll touch on some more of this in a minute.
The next thing that tough love isn't, it's not about manipulation or control. I feel like when you're tough love, if you go back to the definition, you're trying to help them in the long run. You're trying to send them off, so you're trusting. So moving on to what tough love is, it's addressing truly harmful behavior. It's looking at how it's going to send them off into the world. Is this thing that they're doing truly harmful to their development as a person. It's also about the receiver of the tough love becoming more confident in their choices and what you taught them as a parent or as anyone that's in that sending position of tough love. It's also about compassion. You show love while also not enabling or allowing bad behavior. And that's what I call
That's
You're so smart.
She's good.
That's my baby. Give me a pound, baby. Y'all, so y'all ain't, my baby ain't gonna let y'all talk about me in front of me. Nicole, are you there?
Here.
All right.
Hey, sorry about that.
No problem. We still got the same allotted time because we got our other stuff taken care of, so we good. Y'all say hi. Y'all say hey to my life coach one of these days. Nicole, talk to us.
Hello, hello, hello. So we're talking about tough love, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I don't know that there is such a thing as tough love. Love includes discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think we use the word and we've taken on this phrase tough love as if it's something wrong with discipline. But if if you are a child of God, which is always the perspective that I come from, God disciplines and chastises
No doubt.
those that he loves.
That's right.
So we've taken on this whole little worldly thing as if, just like everything else out there, everything that is good, we try to put some other negative misnomer with it, or try to minimize the effect of it. Love disciplines
That's good.
because love brings out the best. But
No doubt.
we've taken on this whole tough love thing. Okay. If that's what we want to call it. I didn't use that term with my kids. I don't use that term with a lot of folks. It's just love and I want the best for you. So in order to get the best out of anything or anybody, sometimes have to do some pruning
Yeah,
and do some
absolutely.
discipline.
Mm-hmm. That's how, and that's the key word you said to me right there. Love doesn't have to be tough. You understand? Like you said, when God disciplines us, but he doesn't abuse us. And the psalmist, notice what the psalmist said. The psalmist said it was good that I was afflicted, that I might learn. He didn't say it was good that I was abused. because had he been abused, he would not have been as receptive to the treatment. And a child can tell when you're disciplining them out of love versus out of anger. And we're going
most children actually want it. If you, like when I worked in education, I would always say, give me the worst child.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones that are the troublemaker or, girl, you don't want to be bothered with him. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. You give me 10 minutes with them. They'll realize, number one, you can't do what you're doing. But if I am saying something to you about your behavior, it is because I care. They can tell.
Absolutely.
They can tell.
Well, Nicole, we appreciate you for calling in and sharing your nuggets. Hey, man, like I told you, Nicole is super smart. Tell them how they can find you. She just wrote a couple of, what's that big word you use to describe your books? Start with anthology, something like this. She wrote a couple of, tell them about your book. And we're going to
Absolutely. I have 2 anthologies. Actually, I'm sitting here sending books out. So I'm just going to hold them up if you don't mind.
Okay.
If you guys can see them, this is one of them. It's Beauty of the Battle. By Nicole Jones. I am a life coach. I am a business owner. I also work full time. So I'm one of those people that, I'm every woman.
Mm-hmm.
And also embracing the battle tribe by fire. You can find me at www.jnicolespeaks.com.
All right. Didn't Chiquita didn't she write a excerpt?
She did. Yeah,
and Gerald,
we went to
Chiquita,
college together.
right?
Yep, we went to FAMU together.
Okay.
And she is in
Brian. Lily Thomas's daughter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we thank you for calling in tonight. We look forward to seeing you again, hopefully on next week, and we're going to continue this conversation. All right. Listen in if you can. All right. All right. Thank you, ma'am. All right. All right, Gerald, it's our time now, baby. You ready?
Hey, I'm always ready.
They can hear you.
I'll take this
I
out.
got you, baby. We can hear everything you're saying when you was on the phone a minute ago. Yeah, but we good. Gerald,
Yes, sir.
you ready to talk, my friend?
Let's talk.
All right. So let's tell us about Gerald Jennings.
Talk about it.
Tell me about Gerald Jennings as a young father. I mean, you and Deidre, well, y'all still wearing? No, y'all ain't that young. I mean, y'all ain't that old.
Still wearing what?
Nothing. I'm not gonna do it. Go
So
ahead.
don't start.
I'm not gonna start nothing tonight, Gerald. We say we're not fighting until after the show. Okay. So what was Gerald like? I should have put you on. Had you on. Put the camera on you. What was Gerald like as a young father prior to Sean being born? Sean is in conception, then he's born. What was Gerald like as a young father?
Gerald was a father that was a mess. Well, he had his challenges in life, and as I was started to grow and to live, just to stay in retrospect of what the topic is all about is tough love. I can just share and talk about my dad and how he raised me.
Okay.
And I was one of those guys that had both of my parents in my life, and my dad was a very respectful man. And he taught us, he talked to us. My mom was the disciplinarian. She was the one that beat you, whoop you. My dad didn't do a whole lot of that. My
Okay.
dad was the one that talked to you. He got to your mind. He talked to your mind and made you think about what you done.
Gotcha.
So it kind of made I became a mixture of my mom and my dad in my discipline.
Okay.
And prior to Sean coming into the world, as I started to raise him, I found out some things that, because I was, corporal punishment was a thing that's how we was disciplined. We got whoopings,
Okay.
you know, and we didn't turn out too bad, but we also had, it was it's really a balance of how you do your discipline, and that's what I learned early in life, is how to discipline. After me and Deidre became one and became a husband and a wife, and she coming from a background of not having to get whoopings and not having to be chastised as a young lady that didn't get into trouble, marrying a person that stayed in trouble and always got whoopings because his mom was a spanker. Then Sean comes along, which is my oldest son. I thought it was okay to spank him, you know, until one day I was spanking him and I looked at my wife's face and she was looking at me like, what are you doing? You know, so we had a conversation and we talked about how we was going to raise our kids. I made a lot of mistakes raising with that, especially with that first child.
All right, let's get into that.
Okay.
Let's not go. Okay, and that's good stuff. So and understanding your family dynamics, where you came from mom and dad. Tell the people, because they don't know you, how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had two brothers. I am the youngest of three.
Okay, so out of three, you being the youngest, were you disciplined different than your older brothers? Because sometimes the youngest child gets it don't get it quite as bad, or they get it different. And now think about it. When you look at it in retrospect, did you get disciplined different than they did, than your older brothers?
I can't say that I did,
Okay.
because my mom was across the board.
Okay.
And my dad was across the board. Like I say, my dad was not one to raise his voice. He was not that one to give you that, so we say tough love, that corporal love, you know. But my mom was. So with seeing my brothers, and we are close in age. We like my oldest brother, then my next brother, and then the next one. We all like 19 months apart.
All three of y'all?
Then the oldest one, then the next one, 19 months. My middle brother, then me, 19 months.
So 3 years apart between oldest and youngest.
Yeah, so
Okay,
a little over 3 years.
So you wasn't the young one that would go telling everything. You wasn't like Joseph and go tell on all the older brothers.
I would tell, but they would beat me up. I learned.
Your brothers beat you up, or your mom beat you up?
My brothers. They made sure that you're not gonna keep on doing it.
Okay, now okay. Now that's an interesting dynamic / paradigm. With them beating you up, as a parent, did you perpetuate some of that stuff on your own child?
Well, ask that question again.
Okay, with you, you know, your mom was a disciplinarian. She would spank all of you all. If you told on them, that would get them even more spankings, which meant your brothers would beat you up. You getting disciplined or by your brothers almost to an extent, did you somehow perpetuate some of those behaviors onto your son or your oldest son?
No.
Indirectly or directly?
If I think back over it, no. I raised him the way that I thought was right.
Okay.
Okay. Which
based on how you were raised.
How I was raised.
Okay.
Okay.
Now that's another paradigm for me, because you have two schools of thought as it relates to how you're raised when it comes to raising your children. Number one, I was cool with the way I was raised. I liked it. So I think it worked. So I'm going to use this same formula on my child. Because it worked.
That's what I knew.
Yeah. Or I didn't like the way I was treated. And because I didn't like the way I was treated, then I say the last thing I'm going to do is treat my child. Like, I'm giving you an example. Like, for instance, Disco. Don't respond. Is your mic off? Is it muted? All right.
He said, mm.
So perfect example. Say for instance, Deidre. And Deidre's in the house tonight. She don't want to be on camera though. That's my partner though. That's Gerald's better half. He can always come as long as she come with it. But if say a couple that forced their child to go to church every Sunday, right? They forced them to go to church every Sunday growing up, and they forced them. And this child really didn't like going to church, right? So as soon as he gets old enough to have his own children, then because he didn't like going to church, what's the first thing he do? He stops taking his child to church. So indirectly, we perpetuate the problems that we had growing up or didn't like onto our children, whether it be indirectly or directly. I'm a product of that. I know it's certain things I don't do with my children based on some things I didn't like growing up. I ain't gonna throw nobody under the bus with that, but it did happen. Okay, you got your mouth open.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because we knew it wasn't so much as we were forced to go.
Mm-hmm.
We knew
Mm-hmm.
we were going.
But you ain't no problem with it.
And no, because they were our parents,
Mm-hmm.
and what they told us to do, that's what we, especially in their face, we was gonna do it. But in the interim, though, watching my kids now that's grown and have their own families,
Mm-hmm.
they're not the church going.
They're not church going.
They're not church going. You know, and my grandkids are really not going to church. But one thing that I realized in that they saw how church was, and they were not faded by that. They were faded by that, because they was like, no, this ain't what it really is. You know, this ain't what it really is. Even though they read their Bibles, they believe in God, they believe in Jesus. We don't want to get off topic.
No, we're not going to talk.
Yeah, but my behavior, they saw my behavior in that, and they don't take their kids to church.
I get you. Oh, and just caveat, if for those that are watching on either Gerald or my live, if you want to go to Disco 100 Radio on YouTube, you can actually see what's going on inside the studio. We're going to open up the phone lines in a few minutes, but you see the phone number on the screen if you're looking at Disco 100 Radio. But we'll open up, but Gerald and I are going to continue this conversation. Now, with that, what are you going to say?
No, go ahead.
All right, so now, describing yourself as a young father,
Okay.
would you say that you were a helicopter parent? Were you a torpedo type parent? Or were you like a tiger dad or tiger mom type parent? Can you explain to them what a tiger mom is?
I'm looking at myself.
I'll take you. I thought you told me what it's like. Look up tiger mom and look up torpedo parent. I know you know what a helicopter parent is, right?
The hovering over.
Yeah, helicopter parent is one of those parents who sit there and hover over their child. They don't give them room to grow up. I mean, they're just always there. What kind of parent were you?
I was definitely not a helicopter parent. I allowed my kids to be who they were.
Okay.
You know, I never wanted to stifle who God created them to be.
Well, okay. Now I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
Go
you
ahead.
said something that I've been kind of talking about all day. So I want to stick with that. You repeat what you just said, because I need everybody that's listening, all 1 million people that are eventually going to hear this video. I need them to hear. I'm speaking it into existence. Y'all don't mind.
Okay.
All right. So you said you were never one of those parents to do what?
To break who my kids were, I wanted to let them be who God created them to be.
Okay.
Because I know that when God decided to create them, I was there, but I wasn't there. I wasn't in the plan.
I got it.
So I wanted them to be who God created them to be. But at the same time, I did not want them to make some of the same mistakes that I made. And sometimes we make mistakes in our parenting by not allowing our kids to make some of the mistakes that they need to make to become who they are.
I mean, you must be in my head. Let me tell you why you're in my head. Because we were talking about this earlier today. I think, Gerald, sometimes we are our children's worst enemy.
Okay.
And the reason why is because many of us, hear me well when I say this, many of us are not equipped to cultivate greatness.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why we're not equipped to cultivate greatness is because we want to raise our children to be like us, as if I'm that great. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how many times have you heard that little statement, my mini me? Look at my little mini me, or my, this is, I don't call Trey my mini me, I call it my namesake, because my name is James Kirkland II, and his name is James Kirkland III. But he's far from my mini me. If you look at him, he got bigger muscles than I got. Now I'm fatter than he is now because I weigh 222 pounds, y'all. I can't believe it that I put on it. Yeah, I see you see the face he just made. But I'm put on some weight. But he's not my mini me.
Right.
He's my child, right? And one thing people used to always ask me, what do you raise him to be? I ain't raising him to be nothing. I'm teaching him how to think. Because if he's a thinker, guess what? He can think his way out of every situation. If he can problem solve, if he can do conflict resolution, if he gets his back against the wall and he figures that out. I remember I've told you about this before, but I remember when Trey was 19 and he was in where was he at? In Chat Valley. He was in JUCO, and he had missed the whole season because he broke his hand. And he only had 20 games left, but they had a really good team, and they were going to go to the College World Series, and the coaches came to him, and the coaches were like, hey, if you come back and play the rest of the season, you've been practicing with us, you can help us, and we'll make sure we help you get a scholarship, and because it was his second year at JUCO, or he could have just redshirted and played the next year and did whatever he wanted to do. But he called me, he said, Dad, I was thinking, I don't want to come back here next year. I can play 20 games. They've already promised me they're going to help me get a scholarship. But I was done when he said what? I was thinking. That was enough for me. So as a father, him saying I was thinking and has put together a rational thought process as a father to him now to a grown man, not a little boy, why would I rain on his parade and say that ain't going to work? Because he gave me a rational, thought out plan. And I believe that his mother and I, throughout life, through those 18 years that prepared him for that 19th year, helped him make a rational decision. And we weren't helicopter parents. We were the ones that would let him get, as long as he knew I'd come home before the streetlights went on, before the streetlights came on. So you weren't a helicopter parent. What type of parent were you? Hold on. Kenny, what's a torpedo parent? And what's a tiger parent? Did you get both of them?
I got a tiger parent is someone who's strict and demanding.
Okay.
And a torpedo parent, is it spiritual? Is it supposed to be spiritual?
Go ahead.
Okay. It's about people who unintentionally or unknowingly torpedo, and I would input the word stifle their child's spiritual development.
And we're gonna acclimate that to all things.
Okay.
The stifles their development, because they try to take over and torpedo their child's future. All right. Which one do you think you fall in either of those categories?
Yeah, I was.
Confession is good for the soul.
Yeah, I mean, I have to
Yes, it
confess
is.
because I really was. I was more like that, the tiger parent. I really was, especially with the boys, especially with my sons.
Okay.
And reason being because I wanted them to grow up to be the best men that they could possibly be. But in that process, I made a lot of mistakes.
Okay. Tell us about some of those mistakes.
Um,
And do the and I respect the fact that you say you made mistakes.
Oh yeah.
But now you're looking at it with a mature eye.
Yes.
I don't want to tell your age, but
I'm proud of my age, bro.
How old are you, 56?
56 years
so
old.
you're looking at it
Soon
with a
to be
56. You're looking at it with a 56-year-old. And tell the audience, how old is your son? Your oldest?
My oldest son will be 35 this year, and the next one is 33.
He look good, y'all, to have a 35-year-old child.
That's right. I look like I'm 35. That's right.
Yeah, we're not gonna push it that far. But go ahead. Tell me about some of those
I
mistakes.
made mistakes because I pushed my oldest son really, really hard. And I pushed him hard because I wanted him to be great. I wanted him to be about something.
Okay.
And whether it was coaching baseball, I had a very bad temperament when I was younger. I was kind of mean.
Okay.
And I didn't realize how mean I was until my dad told me I was mean. But and that's when I started coming back off it. As I made those mistakes, some of the mistakes I made was I wanted him to do things the way I wanted him to do it.
Okay.
I wanted him to achieve the way I wanted him to achieve. I yelled, I hollered, I fussed. I did all those things too. The boys, I did that to the boys. I didn't do my daughter so much like that because she's the baby and then she's a girl. And I didn't want her to think that it was okay for a man to be yelling at her. So, because that's not okay. But anyway, I made those mistakes, and thank God that in me doing these things, it's kind of made him shut down.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he shut down, and I recognized it.
Okay.
I recognized that, hey, my son, I don't have a good communicable relationship. Is that a word, James? Communicable relationship.
Talk about that. But But go ahead.
Use the word. Use the word. Our relationship, it was kind of strange because I would push him so hard, and I realized that I was kind of
What age did you discover this?
He was probably preteen,
Preteen.
12,
Okay.
11,
See,
12.
we did in my house. We did that because you said your mom did all the discipline in your house. Right?
Mostly, yeah.
In my house, I specifically told my ex, don't discipline him like that. Especially boy putting his hands on all the hands on like that. I put my hands on him. And it wasn't that I didn't want her to. It was more so the fact that I didn't want him to resent her. I didn't want him to grow up resenting her, if that makes sense.
So you wanted her to be the good cop.
I want her always to be good cop. And I wanted her, because I know, and he'll tell you, there was a season I pushed him away because I was so hard on him.
Yeah.
But I knew if both of us pushed him away, he wouldn't have anybody to go to. Mm-hmm. But if I pushed him away, he'll always have his mama as a fallback. Mm-hmm. But because you know as well as I know, a son can love and hate his father out of the same breath. Mm-hmm. At the same moment, he could be upset with me in this moment, but 10 minutes later, we cool again. But if he starts to resent his mother, man, that's a hard one to come back from. That's a hard one to come back.
But it's kind of hard too, especially for boys to really dislike their mom.
Well, and that's true for the most part, especially if you talk about it from your standpoint. I wasn't raised by my mother.
Okay,
I was raised by my stepmother. Okay, and I ain't gonna lie, there was times I was probably a modern day Cinderella. So there are some things in my life now that I actually resent when it comes. If a woman starts yelling at me, it makes me think about her when she used to yell. Mm-hmm. Man, some of the ways she used to discipline me, man, I did not. You know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't do the same thing to my kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, she was one of those kinds, and I'm not throwing her under the bus because I love her, beautiful lady. Right. She was there since I was 7 years old. But I'm going to give you an example. I hated onions in my eggs. I hated it. I never liked it growing up. But she liked onions in her eggs. So she made everybody else in the house eat onions in their eggs. You remember you went to the house one time. Kennedy, she sit there and tried to make her eat all her. And if you came to our house, no matter what child you are, she set you down and made you eat all your food.
That's the way we were growing. That's the way we were raised.
Yeah. But I'm gonna be honest with you. But Deidre, she was also making me eat all my food whenever we went out and ate shrimp. But guess what? I was allergic to shrimp. I threw up every time I ate shrimp. And thankfully I wasn't there because I probably could have died from it because now the way your throat swell up and all that kind of stuff. So that's an example of you trying to use tough love when it ain't even a cause to use tough love. I hated eggs with onions in them. I hated green bean casserole. To this day, I'm not eating no green bean casserole. But in that content, do you think that's tough love? Yes, it is.
You do?
Yeah.
And help me with that.
Yeah. Well, if you see I'm getting sick doing it, but you steadily making me do it, what is that?
I understand that part.
Yeah. What would you call it?
That's like abuse.
Okay.
She probably knows. Tough love. I don't know if that was tough love. I think that was just
borderline abuse. That was borderline abuse. Yeah, and don't nobody call her and tell her I said this because she can listen to it on her own. But for real. But that was the kind of thing when I talk about those. So those things growing up, and that's just one thing that I'm mentioning. Right, I mean, but sometimes it can make you begin to resent.
Yeah.
If that's the only authoritative figure that you see. Because my dad wasn't really doing discipline like that. He might whoop me if he got tired of her yelling after so long. But for the most part, she did all that. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Now, and that's why, I hear people always talk about the good mother and son relate. Everybody ain't got that testimony. That's your testimony. You know what I'm saying? I ain't. Now, Karen, my biological mama, yeah, she was there. You know what I'm saying? She was up right a few minutes up the road. But I was raised with my dad and my stepmom. And like I said, and my stepmom, the way she disciplined me, it kind of created some type of resentment. I'm going to give you an example. I was at Walmart one day, and I saw this little girl. She might have been 21, 22 years old. I got two examples, actually, but 21, 22. And she's jerking this little boy around, just jerking him left and right, just jerking him. I said, stop jerking that baby like that. This my baby. You don't tell me what to do with my baby. I said, I get it. But I said, you keep jerking him like that, you're going to raise him to hate every woman that look just like you. Mm-hmm. I said, but keep on doing what you're doing. I hope it works for you. Mm-hmm. Because our dynamics are different. Your mama could get up and she was going to do it regardless, and you were going to respect her, but she also had her daddy's back, your dad's back regardless, right? Now, by the same token, if 70, 60, 75, 70% of the houses are raised by single women now,
Yeah, that's a problem.
and you put and you're not equipped to put bass in your voice, but you putting bass in your voice, and they hearing it all day long, every day. We ain't the same kids. These ain't the same kids we were growing up.
Right.
With uncles, I had uncles that would come bust me in my chest and then dare you to cry. You know what I'm saying? But we're living in different dynamics now. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, with that being said, you got to be careful how you deal with certain children, right? All right. So let me say this right here. Now, this is Dr. Amy Duramus. She's a psychologist. She says the problem with tough love is that it feels really good to deliver, but if it's too harsh, it won't work. Then she says some people respond well to being direct and straightforward, but others respond to more emotional language or to a gentler way of discussing issues. Which one do you think works better?
It depends on the situation.
Okay, I'm glad you answered it like that. Which one do you say works better universally, you think, more so?
I can't say that either one. It just depends on the individuals because some people shut down.
Okay. Did Sean shut down?
Sean shut down.
Okay.
I said, yeah, he shut down, and when I realized it, then I started trying to nurture him back. You know, and like I told you before we had this, we was talking one day that thank God I had a friend of mine.
Yeah.
That Sean would talk to, and he was a spiritual guy. He was, one of my partners at church, and Sean would talk to him, and it helped make things better. And then one day it was Sean that came to. It was DJ. Now he had got older then, and he told us. He said, "Mom and Dad, y'all won't give us a chance to scrape our knees." He said because every time we start down, y'all pick us up, and that opened my eyes to saying, you know what, I got to stop putting my interjecting myself into his life in every situation.
So you were a helicopter dad?
No.
That's what you just said. He said the boy just told you.
He said, no, I was catching it, but I was more of a tiger.
You more of a tiger. You more of a tiger.
Yeah, I was more of a tiger because
Okay.
I was really, really direct. But then once I saw him shut down, I started to back off.
Okay, so he's 12 now, and you discovered this.
Well, I discovered it then. I still kind of raised him kind of tough, but I started to back off because Brent's on the scene now.
Okay, how did you?
Brent has he has the totally different personality.
That's all right. Based on
different people.
Based on how based on Sean's reaction to your parenting style, how did you raise Brent? Because I remember Brent. Brent wasn't no joke.
Brent was no joke.
Brent. When is Brent's birthday? What's Brent's birthday?
July 4th.
Yeah, he's a Cancer. I know. July 6th, July 12th. I know cancers. Okay, here we go. So
Brent was no joke.
Okay.
I mean, you can say what you want, Miller made. Brent was gonna do what Brent was gonna do. And whatever the consequences was behind what Brent did, he just dealt with it.
Gotcha.
But he was gonna be who he was.
And I remember when we met like in 02, 03.
Yeah, it was like 03.
Okay, and Brent graduated when?
In 06.
Okay, so I remember it had to be 04. And it was 03, 04, and we had just started being friends, and we were hanging out, or we were on the phone. We were getting to go. I think we were going to go play golf. I think we were going to go do driving range.
Okay.
And the school called.
Yeah.
And you said I gotta go.
On the regular.
I said why? You said I gotta go. He said I gotta go. I said what's wrong? He said the school just called a guy about Brent. I gotta go. I said what's wrong? He said I know him. When he started acting up, I got to go right then. I'm the only one that can stop him when he gets like this. And audience, hear me well. When his child, and Brent's not a bad kid, never was a bad kid. Brent graduated from high school, went to college, went to a very good college, played professional basketball. Brent had a good career, and now he has his own family, so he's doing very well. But when that situation happened, to watch Gerald stop what he was doing, I mean, he cut me cold. We had reservations. We were going to go to the driving range, but he said, I got to go. I said, why? My son. So tell us about what was the difference in his temperament to make you run like that?
Because I know I knew that I had to head him off.
Okay.
At the path before he got to the end of the path. Because once he got started, he was a very smart young man, very independent, and he's a leader.
Okay.
And we just, I left a job so I could raise my kids.
Okay.
That's why I started. That's why I'm an entrepreneur today, because of my kids.
And you're a very successful
Yeah,
entrepreneur.
I think I did pretty good. I put 3 kids through college, doing what I do. So.
And got a couple of coins in the bank.
So, but anyway, we're not talking about me. We're talking about my kids.
That's another show.
We're talking about
That's an
tough
entrepreneur
love.
show.
But I actually had the opportunity, and I had to have myself free so that I could go to the school
Okay.
for Brent.
Okay.
I couldn't work on nobody's job and raise him, because he was he was a very independent, doing what he was gonna do, regardless of the consequences. This is what I'm gonna do right now, and I'll deal with the consequences later. So we had to learn how to deal with that as a couple. So, and I thought, I knew I wouldn't have but one chance to raise them, one chance to try to get to him. So after I did all that I could do in raising him and trying to direct him and teaching him and talking to him and sweating and praying over him, he turned out all right. But
When did the lights come on? I'm sorry, let me make sure, for those that didn't hear me. When did the light come on for Brent?
Well, it's hard to say.
Because he blossomed overnight. I mean,
Yeah, he did. And everything that he did, he evolved.
Yeah, when did he start making the basketball team?
He got cut from basketball
I remember he
every
got
year
cut.
to the 11th grade.
Okay, that's why he was a late. Cause I remember us playing in the yard. I was decent back then. I can't play worth nothing right now.
Yeah, he ended up going to college.
And he hit a late growth spurt.
Right, he ended up going to college on a full scholarship, academic. He was an athletic scholar. He was an athletic scholar, So turned out to be all of my kids turned out to be great kids.
I'm watching them now.
And I thank God for that, because I never had to go to the jails. None of this foolishness, but they did stuff. They talk about stuff that they did now. But I think the question and the topic of the show is tough love. Does it work or doesn't it work? It depends on the audience.
Yeah.
And we have to know that. We have to, as parents, as leaders, we have to know how to use what it is that we're using on the individuals that we're using it on.
Well, that's the key, and because you said, and I give you credit for saying that you noticed the difference between Sean and Brent, because so many of us, we treat our children as though they're templates.
Oh no.
And we try to use, like my daughter said a minute ago, like Kennedy said, we think there's a one size fits all approach.
No.
And it's not a one size fits all. I mean, each discipline style should be custom made
For the individual.
per child.
That's right.
Nicole Yee. Now Yee, last name Yee, of course. So that means they probably come from Oriental descent or something along those lines. They're tougher on their kids than a lot of us are. But she said there were 3 benefits to her receiving tough love. The first benefit was she learned to be independent. Mm-hmm. It was good for her. She learned to be independent. The second thing she learned was she grew thick skin. Oh, we got some kids nowadays.
Thin skin.
They have some very thin skin.
Thin skin, yeah.
And then number 3, she learned to value humility. I text Trey today and I said, Trey, what do you think the benefits of, that's my son Trey, benefits of, he said, well, you were pretty tough. He said, but it wasn't nothing I couldn't handle. You understand what I'm saying? So I think I knew where to push it. Now, you talk about mistakes. Man, I remember when Trey was in the 10th grade, 9th or 10th grade, it might have been 9th grade, and he was playing baseball. And the night before, they had a game, and they might have had a game till like 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning, right? And so at this time, he's also in the magnet program at the school. So he has a bunch of homework. And so he gets home that night, he has his project due, and the project, I guess, wasn't due till about 3rd period. So he wasn't done. He said, Dad, can I stay home during 1st period to finish this project? Me trying to be tough and no, you should have finished it, and made him get on the bus and go to school. He looked at me like, are you serious? And I could see almost how upset he was. And all I had to do was keep him home for another hour, inconvenience myself for 15 minutes to take him to school, and it would have been the difference between an A and a B. But I'm trying to be tough, trying to flex my muscles. That was dumb.
Mistake.
That was a mistake. Yeah. But so much of parenting is on the job training.
Yeah. And
you only get one chance to make that first impression. Yeah. And we flunk sometimes.
Yeah.
I flunked that lesson, man. And when I looked at it later on, I was like, all I had to do was let him stay home for 30, 40 more minutes.
Take him to school.
Jump in the car and take him to school, and he would have had an A on that project because Trey was always smart. I mean, he always was. But he had to balance baseball, and baseball was strenuous. Kennedy was the same way. Practice every day with softball, and I believe that gave them some form of discipline, right? And even baseball, man, we had some coaches. I ain't gonna lie, most of the ones that were coaches was from the hood that I'm talking about, and they loved to holler at our kids, yell at them. And Trey at that time, I think, was 10 years old. And it was one coach, I ain't gonna say his name, but they were learning how to hit the changeup then. And so you already know a changeup, you can't tell what it is coming out of somebody's hand. So when he's throwing this pitch and they kept missing the pitch, and the coach, don't swing at the changeup. I tell y'all not to swing at the changeup. He steadily hollered at my son. Don't swing at the changeup. Then finally Trey gets in the car and said, I ain't swinging at third strike no more. I said, why? Because coach is going to holler at us regardless. So if he going to holler at us, why am I going to swing? I said, so I called the coach after the game. I said, Coach, I don't mean no harm. But if you holler at my son again, he don't play for you no more. But what you mean? If you holler at my son again, he don't play for you no more. You're used to coaching basketball. He coached high school basketball. My son, this is 10-year-old baseball. Those are two different mentalities. I can get mad at you in basketball, shake you, and dunk on you. But baseball, you got to concentrate to hit a ball, right? Well, then all the parents start saying, well, he got to get used to high school because they're going to holler at him in high school. But what if you don't want to play in high school because somebody else hollered at him at 9, 10 years old? You're not going to holler at my son no more. And they would holler at him. If he was late to practice, they holler, you late. Well,
he don't drive.
I raised my hand. Coach, he ain't got no car.
Right.
I said, you really want to holler at me. So if you want to holler at me, tell me to run. Yeah. But he was upset the whole way here. So why would you holler at him about something he had no control over? So sometimes we have to be creative enough to know when to use tough love.
Can I share another thing with you?
Sure, I want you to share something.
I have 3 kids. And like I said, I raised all 3 of them because they had different personalities. My daughter, and I can't leave her out.
Yeah, we won't get to her later.
She very independent, very stubborn. She was very stubborn. So Dita did most of the spanking of her.
These are not the views of this show. This is Gerald talking about Jazz on this. Go ahead. Jazz, I love you. You all right with me, Jazz.
That's my baby, man. That's my baby. But, just talking about tough love. When she got in high school, she had my best friend gave her a car.
Okay.
And I want to share this, okay?
Go ahead.
My best friend gave her a car. The best car he had in the driveway. He gave it to Jazz because he's the goddaddy. Jazz driving to school. Jazz hated the car. Really, literally.
I believe it.
So she didn't like the car, but she was not walking. Girl, you're not walking. You don't have to go. You're driving. So she gets an attitude one day, and she would cop an attitude pretty quick. Very quick, easy. You didn't have to do anything to her. She's good at this moment. The next moment, she got an attitude. What's wrong with you? Nothing. So one day she got upset with me. I'm sorry, Jazz. She got upset with me and
not the expression good.
Told me, I said, you got a car and you acting like this about it. I don't like the little old car anyway, the old raggedy car anyway. I called my best friend. This tough love now.
Okay.
I called my best friend. I said, hey, come get this car. He said, huh? I said, come get your car. I ain't coming. I gave the car to Jazz. I said, no, you got to come get this car. She don't appreciate it. And tough love gave her pat and bend for the rest of that school year. She had to walk and catch the bus to school, pat and bend. They're 2 best friends.
We call it pat and turn. Pat your foot on one foot and turn the next. Go ahead.
Pat that foot and bend that knee, bro. You finna walk. She walked.
What grade was she now?
She was 10th, 11th grade.
Okay.
And she had to walk to school. She did a project. We built her a house, a replica of the old house, the house that we got on. Oh no, we built her a replica. We stayed up all night, project, building the house. She didn't want to take the house to school because she had no way. I made her carry that house up the street to the bus.
That's tough love.
But the thing is, she turned out to be a great young lady.
Oh yeah.
She couldn't stand her daddy from 16 to 18. She didn't like her daddy. And I didn't yell at her or anything like that, but I would tell her she put on them little short skirts. I'd tell her, go in the house, change clothes. Mama said I could do it. No, but Mama not here. Go in the house and change your clothes. But that's just the difference that I talk with a calm voice to Jazz. I yelled at Brent. He took it. I yelled at Sean. He shut down.
Okay.
So we have to realize and understand the audience and who we are talking to, whether we call it tough love. It could be tough love and not be corporal. You know, it could be the way your tone. You know, it can be just how what you say is not what you say, but it's how you saying it. One of the things that helped me in life that really made me realize that sometimes tough love do work. A lot of times it works.
It does.
Because my dad, for instance, when I was married with Deidre, had a child, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, Dad, can you sign for me or co-sign for me a car?" He said no. I wasn't used to him saying no. When he told me no, it made me realize that I had to get it for myself. If he hadn't have told me no that day, I wouldn't be the successful businessman I am today. Because I would always go to him. I would always go to him because he was my catch net. That was my safety net, but really it was a hindrance. So tough. That's a part of tough love, and knowing that tough love, it does work. You just have to know the audience that it works in.
I'll tell you right now, if we would have yelled at her, she'd have shut down.
You know,
never had to spank her. You could just raise your voice a little bit. That bottom lip was going out, Jack. She was going.
And she the baby.
And no, she's the middle child.
You the middle.
Yeah.
You the one in college.
Yeah.
I thought they was the baby.
She called you uncle at the beginning of the show. Take it back.
No, she's still my niece.
Okay. Yeah. You remember when they was at the house?
Crawling around on the floor, man.
He just looking at them. That was so funny. But Mackenzie, try tough love on her. Mackenzie called the police on you, man.
Wish she?
Ooh, she's different, man. She ain't no joke, but she's creative. She's super resourceful. She's the leader, one of the leaders of the house. This one is the captain of the softball team, and she's a sophomore. Mackenzie has been the captain or the co-captain of the cheerleading team for the last couple of years, and she treats it seriously. You know what I'm saying? So but Mackenzie, please, emotional. She said because she's a winter baby. We were born in July. She was born in November.
The bitter cold.
The bitter cold. But we ain't gonna talk about it. She ain't here to defend herself. But you can't do it. She ain't. And a lot of the kids in this generation, they're not accepting what we accept.
No, they're not.
And you know why? Because a lot of us, we try to start parenting so late, or catch them when they become grown, or we were their friends for so long and all this. And then when it's finally time to start doing something with them, then we think, let me give this example right here. And there's another question asking, does tough love work? On the surface, it seems like logical that practicing tough love will prepare kids to face tough situations. That's false. There was a study done in Israel where 18-year-old men have to serve in the mandatory military service. It was found that male adolescents who grew up in non-nurturing environments coped and adapted worse in tough military scenery than those who grew up in nurturing households. So what they're suggesting is those who experienced real tough love, not abuse, that were nurtured properly and that they fared better in the Israeli military, because it's mandatory for all their 18-year-olds to go to military. But the ones that didn't get nurturing at home, that didn't get good parenting and all those kind of things, those that got in the military, they didn't perform as well. And it seemed like, because the little Oriental young lady said that she grew thicker skin. So does tough love, and this is a rhetorical question, but you can answer it if you want to. Does tough love, does it prepare you to deal with tougher situations, or does it make you more bitter towards a lot of those situations? You can answer it.
I can answer it. Okay, I think tough love prepare it in some, again, it depends on the audience and the situation. But I think tough love prepare you for tough situations, because if you are used to going through tough stuff and you survived, you've been through some tough things and you survived it. When you're faced with something else tough, guess what? It ain't like you hadn't been there before.
That sounds like that should be the situation. But unfortunately, the study just said that those that went in didn't.
Who they was doing the study with?
This I just told you. Remember they said the people that went into the Israel army.
I understand that part. That's a different culture.
I got you, but it's people.
It's people, but it's a different culture.
Yeah,
so we can agree to disagree.
I'm not. No. We're not agreeing to disagree, because, like you said, because I don't disagree.
Okay.
I don't disagree. There, one thing about and I will always say this: there is no one size fits
Right.
all approach
That's
to
true.
anything. And I'm not saying that I'm a proponent for tough love. I'm not gonna say I'm against tough love. I know some people need tough love. I put tough love on certain people. I'm gonna give you another example. I remember because, like I said, from our culture.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our older uncles and brothers, and they made us experience tough love. I mean,
Right.
I remember my uncle, because I had a cousin, he's passed away now. I remember one time he hit me so hard in my chest, man, I wanted to cry so bad. But they sat there and said, you better not cry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm holding it in, you better not cry. And I wanted to cry, you know what I'm saying? But I wouldn't dare subject people to that type of thing. I remember Mackenzie, I took her to work. I used to have you remember when I had my little shoe shine stand?
do.
I know some of y'all don't know this, but I used to have a shoe shine stand in Buckhead. And when I had my little shoe shine stand, it was a lot of lawyers and financial people in the building, a lot of well-to-do people. And my stand, I was downstairs one day, and that day Kennedy was at work, and I had taken Mackenzie. School, my bad. I said work. I didn't have a job at 5 years old. But I took Kennedy was at school. You got a job though, probably. But Kennedy was at school, and Mackenzie went to work with me. And so she's just hanging out with me, you know, whatever. And so this older middle-aged white guy came down. Kent, I never forget. Kent was his name. Kent came out, and Kent saw Mackenzie. And when he walked up to her, Gerald, this literally blew my mind. He got down on one knee, stuck his hand out, and said, "Hi, Mackenzie. My name is Kent." How would we have greeted her? A lot of us would have greeted her, "Hey, little girl, how you doing?" Put your hand on top of her head, but definitely wouldn't have got. Because when I saw him get on one knee, I saw him get down on her level.
Mm-hmm.
He got down on her level. He looked at her eye to eye, and he said, "Hi, Mackenzie." And he didn't say, "I'm Mr. Kent." I didn't say, "I'm Mr. Hamner." He didn't say none of that kind of stuff. He said, "My name is Kent." But because of the mentality that a lot of us have, a lot of us came from slave mentalities. If we really think about it, from back in the day, we think that you're my subordinate, you're beneath me, you're younger than me, so you gonna respect me, even if I haven't given you any disrespect yet, right? Mm-hmm. But he got down on her level, introduced. Why don't we treat our children like that? Go ahead, because I got about 2 minutes.
Okay. One thing that I see in that well, as a whole, you can't say we don't treat our kids like that, because respect.
I can only talk about what I.
Well, respect is a two-way street. Just because she's a child, she has to be respected.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, we're saying the same.
I have to respect my children. Mm-hmm. For them to respect me, that's a learned behavior. So if I respect them, guess what they're gonna do in turn to me? They gotta respect me.
I agree.
But see, the problem that we're having now in our culture, in our society, is because we don't, like you say, you saw the lady snatching the little boy, yanking the little boy. My mom, she spanked us and she nurtured us. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? That's right. She kicked our tails, and then she still patched up our boo-boos. You know, and then the same thing with raising our kids. Yes, I did. I made those mistakes. I was forceful. But then when they were in a point of need, they knew I was doing what I was doing out of love. Even though I made some mistakes in doing it, I was doing it out of love. And that's the key difference maker. That love is the one that covers the multitude.
I ain't gonna shout, but I will.
Yeah. So it's the love that I think that's the difference maker in this whole thing, whether tough love work or it doesn't work. If I love you, if I'm using tough love on you and I see that you are shutting down from my tough love, then I got to take a new approach.
Gotcha. All right, listen, everybody. Thank you all so much for listening tonight. Gerald, man, thank you for coming in.
I thank you for having me.
Man, I would have given you a T-shirt, but you said you wear larges. All I got is a 2XL. So
2X.
You bigger than? Well, you're not bigger than me no more. I'm wearing the XL. I'm wearing the XL right now. But I guess it's
use me.
Whatever. I thought you were big and tall. And all that kind of stuff. But listen, thank you all for listening tonight. We're going to continue this subject on tough love. I got another guest that's going to come in. We're not going to have a show next week because next week is Memorial Day unless we pre-record something. But in the following weeks, we're going to be dealing with tough love a little bit more. We're going to be dealing with divorce. I've already got a couple of shows pre-planned. So I am thankful to all of you all for calling in tonight. I'm sorry I didn't give y'all a chance to call in, but Gerald was awesome. Gerald was really awesome. Gerald, I appreciate you, man, like I said, for sharing your insight. Deidre, you always come and you make him look better. I appreciate you for that. Kennedy,
No
you always
comment.
give us wonderful insight, and I appreciate you. So I'm just thankful. Disco, thank you for being our trusty engineer. So we're getting ready to go now. We're getting ready to get out of here. We're getting ready to close. But I wanted to tell you all we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Please tell a neighbor, tell a friend, tell somebody about the intellectual stew. Let them know that we're not sipping tea, but we are serving stew because we're serving something that is substantive. Now, remember this, the world is changing. Why do you remain the same?
That's good stuff.